Welcome to the future.
Welcome to the Muxall Open IoT channel. I am your host, Michael Crane. Alright, so here's the maiden voyage of the Muxall RPTC-Q temperature controller. As you can see, we've got 3 probes plugged in. This probe right here, I forget the number, we'll look at the GUI in a minute, is a PT100. It's just a homemade thing that I bought off the internet. This probe right here is a Camp Chef probe. It's a thermistor. And this probe right here is a genuine Traeger probe. You can tell by the striped lines on the cable. You can see the beer can mod I have going on there. You might be able to see it, I don't know. Let's see if you can. It's kind of dark off in there. Anyway, so there's a PT1000 right there. That is the chamber probe for the barbecue. And the reason why it's in the can, because the way this barbecue is designed, the heat actually comes out right, well, there's a plate right there, but there's heat that comes out both sides of this, and it heats up this probe, and it makes the probe think the chamber is actually hotter than what it is. So I put this can around it, which kind of shields the heat from the probe a little bit, not a lot, but it helps. And that was a Alright, so I've got the, let me back this up a little bit. I've got the model 124 Traeger. Anyway, I'm standing in the garage and the Traeger's in the driveway, sitting next to my truck, as you can see. So let's see if we can get a close-up on that controller. And there's a controller. Kind of hard to see there. Let me see. Did that help? No, it looks like it washed it out even more. It's easier to see from where I'm standing. It's not showing up on the camera very good.
Not a toy. She should not be allowed to touch that at all.
Oh, mother.
What?
That?
Yeah.
What is this? That's a nice, pretty little beep, I think. And it turns a knob. You want Grandma to turn the knob? Oh, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3.
Nope.
Okay, you can see the probe temperatures in there. 77. Those ribs have been sitting out there for a while I was setting this camera up. They're starting to cook without me. All right. So this is the chamber temp. So it's 87 inside the chamber. It's 85 outside the chamber. Or actually, that's on the PCB itself, which is on the back side of the button panel there, and then of course the probe temperatures. So, and what's nice about it is that having the outside temperature is this controller, it can only work up to about 150 degrees. So if you have it sitting in direct sunlight and it's 150 and it's just getting cooked, and something goes wrong with the controller, you'll know because it'll register how hot it is. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing fired up. my daughter was playing with it, so I see she's adjusted the temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and just adjust it myself. It looks like it's already set for cook by probe. So I'm just going to, let's see. Alright, I'm going to turn the cook by probe off for right now. And I'm going to navigate up and over. And I'm going to set our ribs on. I think we'll start with 250. Start, and then, so it's at 250, and I'm just going to go ahead and, you have to hold that start-stop button for about 3 or 4 seconds to get it to start, or stop for that matter. And the reason why is I did that is so you don't brush it and accidentally turn it on or off. You can also lock the controls. You can see the controls are locked now. And that's so if you come by and hit something, you can't change anything by accident. The knobs doesn't work, it won't push. The only thing that does work besides the lock-unlock button is the panel light, as you saw. Alright, you can see the barbecue starting to smoke. I'm trying to get a little more light on the situation here. So let's kind of go through this real quick. So it's on profile 1, and so when you start the controller from the controller, using the keypad on the controller, it defaults to profile 1, and it also holds profile 1. So if we go down here to the profiles, you can see the target temp is 250, which is what we set it on, and it defaults to hold. And that's so if you're just cooking some hot dogs and you don't want to mess around with profiles or anything, you just go in there, dial in whatever temperature you want to cook at, and hit start and let her rip, right? And since it's holding, it's this -5 minutes. You can see there's no cook time in here, right? so it's been running about 5 minutes. And let's see, we looked at the, I kind of started the graph earlier, and here's the graph. And since we're not doing cook by probe right now, we're just seeing the target chamber temp, which is this green line right here, and the current chamber temp, which is this red line, okay? And let's see here. And here's the barbecue config. I was in this earlier setting up the different meat probes. So probe 1, which I think is the middle probe, is the Camp Chef probe. It's actually a 2-wire, but it's got a plug that looks like this, so it's set a 3-wire. A meat probe 2 is a RTD, a generic RTD that I bought off the internet and put an end on. It's actually a 2-wire, which looks like that, but there's a for some reason when I set on 2-wire it doesn't work, so I'm gonna have to look at that. I guess you can call that a small bug, right? And then meat probe 3, this is a true Traeger probe, and what's interesting is it's actually a PT1000. Oops. And it's also a 2-wire probe, but it has a plug that looks like this, so it's set on 3-wire. Okay, so I'm gonna put, ouch, ooh, that's already hot. Okay, I'm gonna put, let's see, here's the Camp Chef probe. We're gonna put him, alright, right there. And then this is the Traeger probe. I think Traeger probe is number 3, so I think this guy right here is number 2. We'll just plug him cook by probe with ribs is kind of silly because ribs, at least I cook the crap out of my ribs, and so it really is kind of pointless, but I wanted to demo all the probes, right? Okay, well that looks a little better. I expect probe 3 to be higher. It's in the you know, thinner part of the meat, sitting next to a bone. Probe 2 is almost 10 degrees cooler. That's kind of surprising, and probe 1, which is a Camp Chef probe, seems awful hot. Let me see if maybe I don't have him stuck in there good, because he's in the thickest part of the meat. Let's see, did that make any difference? Well, it got kind of hot from me messing around with it. Let me see if I can adjust probe 1 again. Well, kinda. That is interesting. But I mean, at least it falls in line. 102 earlier seemed a little a little crazy, didn't it? Okay, and I expect, like I said, probe 3 to be high. So, and by the way, in case you're wondering, yes, I did test all these probes, and they all read the same temperature if they are all in the same environment. And I tested that and let them sit for, gosh, a couple hours, and they are all just within a half a degree of each other. And so here we're back at the graph. You can see it's reached its temperature. Here's the duty cycle. It's running the auger. Currently it's 19 seconds on and 60 seconds off. And you can see right now the auger is off. That's probably because it's too hot, right? All right, just a quick update look at the LCD. You see the meat starting to heat up nicely. Probes 2 is now almost 13 degrees underneath probes 1 and 3. That's kind of interesting. I'll have to. It does have a very long wire, but yeah, it's wired 3-wire. It should be okay. I'm not exactly sure why it's like that. That's some good smoke there. That's what you want. You want your barbecue when it swings like that. You want it smoking. Yeah, that's good stuff there. We'll go look at the graph here in a minute and see how big of a spike that was. It looks like a big one. In the graph, at least we should. The goal of max smoke is to make it should oscillate around the target temperature. And when you make the Traeger oscillate like that generates more smoke. So it's kind of like it kind of goes out, and then it has to relight, and it kind of thing, and it'll poof smoke out more. Whereas if you tried to just nail a temperatures, you're not going to get it. You're not going to have as much smoke, right? Because then it's just adding a little bit of wood at a time. If you're wondering what this dip is right here, this is me messing around inside the barbecue, right? So I was moving the probes around. Okay, well, you can see by the graph right here that this is where we just saw that plume of smoke coming out. So what happened is the auger shut off for almost I think up to 80 seconds on max smoke, which lets the pellets in the hopper or in the fire pot burn, and then it turns the auger back on and starts dumping pellets in there. And when you get that, you get this, first you get this big swing, because when you start dumping pellets on in that fire pot and a lot of the pellets have already burned out, you get a dip in the temperature because, you know, it's like throwing fresh wood on the fire. But pretty soon that big plume of smoke will transform into heat, and you're going to see, we'll see a big spike over it. You know, hopefully not too big a spike. We don't want it, you know, 300 degrees, but we want it, you know, plus or minus 20 degrees or 25, plus or minus 25 degrees or something like that, right? All right, here's a quick look at the LCD. Yeah, we're still about 11 degrees. Probe 2 still about 11 degrees under probes 1 and 3. That is interesting. I'll have to look at that. That probe 2 is one of the probes I've been using for quite some time in my other barbecue controller. But I did notice it had a problem the other day. I had to solder a new end on it, a new 3.5 millimeter plug, and maybe I messed it up. I don't know. Okay, you can see it's kind of coming back up. I thought it was going to be a steeper spike than that. It looks like it's going to level out. Maybe it's because it's at such a high temperature. 250 is kind of a high temperature. As you raise the temperature, and at least in my Traeger, to get swings around the 350 mark is very hard. Because, I mean, this Traeger might do 425, and that's if you kept the auger on 100% all the time, right? So getting it to swing around 350 is almost impossible. I mean, it's doable, but it's not a lot. Now 250 is a little better, but you know, like when you get around 225, 200, 180, then you really start getting the swing. Then you start getting the swings that are too big. So it's all, you know, kind of an art, if you will. I don't know what to call it. It takes it. You don't want too much and you don't want too little, right? The world of smoking. Yeah, all right. Well, our spike wasn't that big. It's actually very similar to this spike right here. So I was kind of hoping it would be a little bigger, right? This one right here looks like it's already leveling out a little bit. I'm looking at the barbecue. I don't see big poofs of smoke coming out of it, so I'm guessing this swing's not going to be as big. We'll come back and look at it here in a minute. Let's see if you want to look at the probe temps while we're on the GUI here. So we got negative 31 minutes. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned that, but this graph only runs when the barbecue is running. And the reason for that, I thought about making it run all the time, but it stores data on the device it's running on, and if you're going to do a really long run, like 12 hours, I mean, it will clog it up with data, because this thing is pulling data like every 7 seconds, right? I think that's what it's set at. Yeah, every 7 seconds it's getting data, and you know, every 7 seconds and in 12 hours, that's a lot of data points, right? And so this thing will really clog up the device it's running on. So I decided not to run it while it was just doing nothing, right? Because I mean, it is interesting if you're, I don't know, trying to debug it, but most people are just interested in cooking, right? So, all right. And we can look at the probe temperatures here real quick, and maybe I'll go ahead and we can turn on this cook by probe here so we can see another part of the graph. Oh, that's a good point. Let's see, which probe do we want to cook by? Well, since probe 1 is in the thickest part, I guess we'll cook with that. So I'm going to select, where are we here? So I'm going to say cook by probe. Probe number 1, and well, it is pork. That is true. So I've got different things right here. You can, this is just from the USDA recommended cooking temperatures. You can change this, you can type in whatever you want. I don't suggest that, but since we don't want the barbecue to turn off, I'm going to put 450. Alright. Let me leave it on pork. But anyway, yeah, so you select this and it just puts whatever the USDA recommends cooking temperature in, but like I said, you can override it. So I'm just going to put 450 in here, and I'm going to say submit. Okay, and if you want to save that, so see this default recipe right here, this is what the controller uses when it fires up. So let's say you want hot dogs, you just want to fire the controller up and dial in a temperature. It's using this default recipe. If you don't want to mess around with the default recipe, which is probably a good idea, you can save off other recipes like my recipe, and just hit, and you can give it, oh, this is a really good one, and hit save, and then you can load your recipe and submit it, especially when you're doing a bunch of changing the profiles and messing around. But we're not going to do that in this run, so we're just going to stay with the default recipe. And you notice I didn't submit this. It really doesn't matter. I probably could, but it wouldn't. It's only, the controller only uses the default recipe, so since we're using if you're just using the GUI, you can just ignore this default recipe. But if you're messing around like we are, using the controller panel and the GUI, then stick with the default recipe. Right? Okay. All right. Well, let's see here. Where are we at? Graph. Whoa. What happened? Oh, I bet you I shouldn't have messed around with that recipe. I'm gonna mess up my cook. Yep, I sure did. See, I didn't save the default, and so when I reloaded the default back in, that was bad. Okay, probe 1, let's leave it on pork. I'll set it back on 450 and submit. Okay. Why is this set at 195? Oh, I think, oh, oops. My daughter, boy, I really should stop messing around. I'm going to screw up my cook, just showing you stuff. Okay, all right, let's do this. Submit. I might have to bump that up here in a bit because it's already 5:30 and we want to eat around 7, and these ribs are nowhere near done. So, okay, where are we? Holy cow, look at that. Okay, so here's the cook by probe target temperature way up here. And you can see this is me just messing around. You can see the target chamber temp, this green line right here. This is one where you accidentally reloaded in the default recipe. It changed the default. Or changed the chamber target temp for the chamber. And oh yeah, so the cook by probe. So this purple line right here is the cook by probe temperature. Now, you can only cook by one probe, right? Because yeah, so you pick whichever probe you're going to cook with. So in our case, we selected cook by probe. So this enables cook by probe, right? This is where you select the probes, right? And this right here is the temperature you want to reach, right? And this right here, this is under ending control. You can either have it smoke, the barbecue just go into smoke mode when it's done, which is around 180 degrees. Or the default is just to turn the barbecue off when it's done. So if you're out playing around in the pool and not paying attention to your barbecue, then at least you're not gonna, burn all your food, right? You can say, okay, just turn it off when it's done. It might be cold, yeah, but at least it won't be burnt. And yeah, so since it's turning off the barbecue, you really, what are you gonna do? You can't cook by probe with 3 different probes, right? So you just pick one. We just happen to pick probe 1. You can pick probe 2 or 3. It doesn't matter. And then this graph right here is this purple line right here is whatever cook by probe temp that you select. So if you select probe 1, it's showing probe 1 temp. If you select probe 2, it's showing probe 2's temp. Anyway, the goal of this, and so you can look at your barbecue and see what's going on at a glance, is this purple line right here needs to reach this blue line. So, and normally you don't set cook by probe to 450. I just don't want the barbecue to shut off when the ribs hit 145 degrees. That's why I changed this. I want it to stay running so we can play around with it, right? But yeah, so normally you would set the normal way to use this, and I'll probably make a video doing the normal way. Oh, look at that. There's a bug. Yeah, didn't update this. But yeah, so normally you would select 145, which is normal for pork, right? And so this blue line would be somewhere, it's actually getting close to it, right? So they'd be a little bit underneath this 150 mark right here. You can kind of see it right there. That's probably around 145 right there. And before we changed it to 450. So this thing would be run, and as soon as whichever probe you selected, the temperature reaches 45, it's just going to turn off. Okay, it's going to turn the barbecue off. Okay, I'll take a quick look at the controller here real quick. So it's not getting too hot really. Of course, running at 250, the barbecue's not real hot. I was really concerned that with the chamber right here getting really hot, and the controller that far away from it, right, that this thing is gonna start getting pretty hot. And all the electronics in this controller are designed to run between 85 degrees C, or can handle up 85 degrees C to 125 degrees C. But yeah, you don't want it. You don't want to test that because bad things are going to start happening, right? But 90, 92, 91, that's no problem. That's actually pretty close to what the temperature is out here. I notice the sun's come back out and it's starting to feel pretty warm in here. Oh, by the way, you notice that our cook by probe, yeah, so there it is right there. It's selected probe 1 now, and the target temperature is 450, which is a bunch of BS, but yeah, so the LCD's updated, everything's good. And you can change this from the controller right here, right? So if I come down here and say, okay, I gotta unlock it. Scroll down. Let's say I want to change my There we go. Now I can see it. Hopefully I didn't wash out the the video. I was having a hard time seeing it. Well, let's put it on 350. Alright. Okay, so I put it on 350 and if I cursor over and I select probe 2, okay, there we go. And if you just want to make temporary changes, you don't have to do anything. Just select whatever you want and just move on. If you want to save this to the default profile, you hit enter save. Okay? And it's going to save it to the default profile, right? Okay, so back at the computer here. Let's go look at our changes. So we got this. It did update which probe we're using. We're using probe 2 now, which is probably not the good probe since it's not reading right. We can change it. Still cooked by probe. It didn't update. We set that to 350. So this didn't get updated properly. So that needs to be fixed there. So okay, well, this is, like I said, this is this maiden voyage. So we're gonna find stuff. That's okay. This is easy stuff to fix, right? So let's see. What does the graph say? Well, the graph, look at that. So the graph knows that the target temperature is 350. The target probe temperature, right? Huh. And let's see, it's showing 122. Well, that didn't look like, I would have expected a little dip right there, right? If it was using a different probe 2. Yeah, so probe 1 is 123, probe 2 is 111. So yeah, I would have expected that graph to have a little dip in it since we went to probe 2. So yeah, we might have a couple little. Yeah, I expect this to drop down, a little bit, right? Yeah, because it's showing 123. Let me refresh it. No. So it still looks like it's still reading. Probe 1. Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. I have to make a note of that. All right. So I made notes of those. What errors? You see this right here? This, you can see that it's not actually swinging above it, and I'm gonna have to take a look at that because this is good here. I like this, and of course this is where I was messing around with the with the controller and the GUI and messing around. And then it's it kind of went back to its thing, and then all of a sudden now it's not swinging anymore. And yeah, I've seen this before. I'm not sure why. I don't know if I don't know. I'll have to look at that closer. I'll make another video about that for sure. People that want precision cooking would probably go, yeah, right on, but I want it to swing like this. I don't want this. So I'll have to look at that. I mean, this is great if you're in precision cook mode, right? But like if you're like precision or minimum smoke or something like that, but we want max smoke. We want that thing puffing. Alright, let's take a look and see how our food's doing, huh? Hasn't been very long. Oh boy! Yeah, see, it's 6 o'clock, and those ribs look damn near rare. So, yeah, I think we're gonna have to cook up the temperature a few notches. What do you think? Yeah, alright. So, let's see. Let's set her on 300. What do you think? Man, I just cannot see it. Whoops. Oh wow, check that out. That's a that's actually an old bug. You see how I was kind of resetting the numbers? I fixed that already. It came back. Well, guess I gotta fix it again. Alright, just a quick update. You can see the chamber temp is set at 300 now, and so like I was saying earlier, as we start going up in temperatures, you're going to start seeing these swings go smaller and smaller. Although this one looks like it's going to be pretty good. Yeah, you're not going to get a lot, especially you start getting up, where it's close to its max temperature. I mean, it can only hold the auger on 100%, right? And but yeah, this is a pretty good swing for 300 degrees. It's not as good as 250, and of course, like I say, you start getting lower, then they get much bigger. And we can also take a look at some of the probes. This is kind of nice. It says we've been running 69 minutes, which, yeah, you have to remember there's a warm-up time in here and stuff like that, which takes about 5 minutes. So yeah, that's probably not bad. Okay, so the probes are 147, 127, 143, and the controller is at 94 degrees. And like I said, I don't think it's 94 degrees out here, but that thing sitting next to the barbecue, it gets pretty hot. So, this is the temperature the controller is sitting at, which is outside. Okay, well, this got updated nicely. That's nice. Yeah. All right. Well, the ribs are cooking along at 300 degrees. You're actually getting pretty good swings around this 300 mark. That looks pretty good there. I'm happy with that. We should get some good smoke on there. Let's see what the rest of the probes are doing. So they've been cooking 116 minutes. And we're swinging around 300 degrees. And probe 1's at 202, probe 2's at 174, probe 3's at 180. So, and the controller's at 95 degrees. So, yeah, this is interesting. So this is actually the thick part of the meat, and it's actually hotter. Go figure, huh? Maybe I've got it set next to a bone. I've heard that if you put a probe next to a bone, it'll cause it to give you false readings, right? And this guy right here is still pretty much 10-11 degrees underneath this guy. So yeah, I'll have to take a look at what's wrong with this probe. Anyway, that's a quick update. We'll go look at the controller here. So 300 still running, swinging around 300 degrees. Probe 1's at 203, probe 2's at 175, and probe 3 is at 181. And outside temperature is around 94, 95 degrees, which is actually not the outside temperature, it's the controller temperature. Okay, well, that looks pretty good, huh? Take a look at our meat real quick. Whoops. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. Yeah. Got a little pullback on the meat from the bones. So, yeah. Alright. Very good. Okay. Well, getting about ready to I think these ribs are getting pretty cooked. Let's take a look at them real quick. I'm gonna put some sauce on them. So to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the probes out, because some of those probes I actually use in the lab for testing, and I don't want barbecue sauce all over them. So we'll go take a look at the graph here in a second. But yep, I think they're just about ready. You see their meat's pulling back, they're looking good. Alright, well, you can see where I opened the opened the grill up. We had a little drop in temperature there. Okay, we're going to look at the probe temperatures: 210, 187, 193. And the controller is only at 93 degrees, so that's not too bad. Ribs have been cooking for 139 minutes. You know, like I was saying, I'm going to go ahead and pull the probes out. I don't want to cover them with barbecue sauce. But, so we're going to lose this purple line right here. Actually, I think I'll do that right now. I just turn off this cook by probe. We don't need this anymore. So I'm going to pull the probes out. Submit that. And there we go. Okay. So, yep, the blue line and the purple line are going to go to 0. But the green line and red line will continue on. And I'll do an update on the final rib turnout here in just about 15 or 20 minutes. Alright, yep, you can see where the it's all the way down to 180 degrees. And now it's up to 182. So we should get a nice big bounce from this. Okay, go ahead and watch the grill recover. Let's see here. Oop, where are we at? Internal temperature. So the grill's still set at 300. But while I was rubbing the barbecue sauce on there, it cooled off to 182, so we should get a pretty good bounce here. I notice the probe temperatures have dropped, I guess from the coolness of the barbecue sauce, so I'm expecting a big drop, or a big bounce. We'll watch. Okay, so something happened. I don't know what. I was sitting there looking at this, and I'm noticing that the temperature is not going back up. This is bad. So before I turned the video back on, I already turned by the way, it was still in a barbecue state, it was still running, but nothing was happening. So my guess is there's probably a bucket load of pellets in there, and I went ahead and turned it off, so it wouldn't fill up that pot too much. But I'm guessing there is a lot of pellets in there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on and let's see what happens. This ought to be very entertaining. So I turned it back on. It's going to go in warm-up mode. And when it goes into warm-up mode, it's going to turn the igniter back on. And if the burn pot is actually full of pellets like I suspect it is, we are going to see a buttload of smoke. Okay, so I've just turned the grill back on. And I'm going to take a look at the controller real quick. So the igniter's on. I actually didn't check to see if it was actually... You know what? It's out of pellets.
Oh my goodness!
Well, there you go. So there's a business case for a pellet alarm.
Well, were you low when you started?
Okay, so I went ahead and pushed some pellets down that were stuck on the sides right here. The grill is firing back up, which is good. and it's smoking pretty good, so we ought to get a nice good smoky finish on this, on these ribs. So I need to go get my pellets and fill up the hopper. Oh, and by the way, if your grill starts smoking like this, it's always best to open it. There's two reasons for that. One, you don't want your smoke to get bitter, or your meat to get bitter by all the smoke. And two, you don't want it to explode, which I have seen happen.
Wow. Did you say explode?
Yep. 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 I have seen it blow the lid completely open. So it's lit. We're good. I'm going to go fill the hopper up with pellets. I'll be right back. So when I barbecue, I only barbecue with Lumberjack Premium Wood Pellets. Get some at your local neighborhood dealer. And by the way, I like hickory. Okay, so the grill is smoking pretty good. I noticed that the temperatures have cooled down. Look at those meat probes. They're almost at room temperature. Actually, they're actually cooler than the controller is, the outside temperature. So that, and it wasn't even that long. I'm shocked that it's actually that cool. You know what? I know why those probes are at the same temperature. There you go. I pulled them all out. So, if anyone was wondering if all the probes read the same temperature, there you go. Oh. I'm sorry, the autofocus isn't working for some reason. I think it's focusing on one of these probes. There. How's that? There we go. So we got the three probes sitting there, right next to each other, and yeah, they're reading pretty close to the same. Yeah, a couple degrees here and there, but we'll come back and check on them here in a minute. But the ribs are just about done. I have the probes pulled out, no reason for to have them anymore, right? Whoops. Nothing better than a whole bunch of wires hanging off your barbecue, right? So if you want to see the ribs, and it's getting kind of dark out here now, but there they are. They're looking pretty good. Got some good pullback on them. Barbecue sauce is starting to caramelize, so we're good. Got some smoke on them. So I think this will be the end of this video. I don't know. Maybe I'll go take one more look at the graph and the GUI real quick, but I think we can call this done. Whoop. Whoa. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to drop you. So yeah, all those probes will come clean here in a bit. But yeah, that's interesting that probe 2 was always 10 degrees cooler, because as you can see now that they're all hanging out, you know, pretty much right next to each other, that you know, it was actually reading the right temperature. So there you go. Okay, well, here's the graph. I had to restart it. I restarted the graph after I restarted the grill. Yeah, you can see I actually forgot about it. 20 minutes passed before I restarted it. This is me messing around, showing you guys the ribs. You can see it's already up to temperature. Not a lot of swing going. I'll have to work on that. I'm not exactly sure why it's not swinging. Looked pretty good the first time around. But we can go look at the control. Yeah, it's been running 25 minutes. And oh yeah, all the probes are sitting outside, just dangling. That is very interesting about this one. I'm not sure what to think about that. But anyway, that's about it.
Happy eating.
Happy eating. Don't forget, you can support the Muxall Open IoT channel by donation using a credit card and PayPal, or by purchasing products at the Muxall store. Details and links are in the description under this video. Well, that's it for this video. If you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up, that helps, and hit the subscribe button. That really helps. If you have any questions or comments, post them in the comments under this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.